Search Engine Journal webinar. Hope you're having a great day, and thank you for joining us. I am joined by this fabulous gang from Page One Power. With us today, we have Kimberly Brown, Content Marketing Manager, Corey Collins, Business Development Manager, and Nick Katsianis, Sales Director. And Nick is also going to be joining us. We have a breakout room for you today, and Nick will be your host in that room. So we'll open that at the Q&A. But before then, Kimberly, Corey, Nick, thank you so much for joining us.
Our pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. So for everybody out there today, if you are here to learn about how to drive product page rankings with a funnel of content and links, you are definitely in the right place. My name is Heather. I'm going to be your moderator today. Please use hashtag SEJ webinars to share any cool tidbits you learn on social. And so I'm going to do some quick housekeeping, and then I'm going to turn it over to this fabulous gang to tell you what they're here to talk about today. So we have a chat and we have a Q&A. If you have questions for this team, please put them in the Q&A tab, and we're going to do our best to answer as many of them as we can at the end of the webinar. If you see a question that is exactly what you would like to be asking, give it a little thumbs up. That upvote will tell the team that it's important, and we'll do our best to ask those ones first. Like I said, we'll answer as many of them as we can at the end of the presentation. If you do need closed captioning, it's the little CC in the top right corner of your screen. So after the webinar, if you can stick around for a short survey, it takes like 30 seconds, and it just lets us know how the webinar was for you today and how we can make them better in the future. And lastly, the most important question that we get asked every time, you will absolutely receive today's recording and the slides. So watch your inbox from that. At the end of today's presentation, we do have a breakout room. And like I said, Nick is going to head over there and answer some questions, show you some cool things that their platform can do. And we're going to stay on this side for the Q&A. So with that, I'm going to get out of here. Kimberly, Nick, Corey, it's all yours.
Thank you for that introduction, Heather. Very much appreciate it. So we are Page One Power. We're an SEO agency. We specialize in link building and content creation. Specifically, my name is Corey Collins, as Heather already introduced me. My title is Business Development Manager at Page One Power. I've had the pleasure of being there for 11 years now. So I've gotten to see a little bit of everything in that time. I've been involved in strategy and client management and execution and sales and marketing. I've really had the pleasure of doing everything. As business development manager, my goal now is to make sure that we're developing the best products possible for our clients, that we're achieving the best results possible. Nick, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Corey. Nick Katsianis here. I've been with Page One Power about 10 years. I started out in sales before I got poached out of sales and moved into project management. So I spent about 8 or 9 years in project management and have overseen a lot of different types of SEO campaigns, from small mom and pop shops to enterprise level accounts, and have recently moved back into the sales world. So have kind of moved around from both ends of the spectrum, from pre-sales discovery calls, understanding our clients and prospects needs and pain points, to solving those and seeing the execution through to the end of our projects.
Thanks, Nick. Kim, would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Yes, thank you. Hi, I'm Kim. I've been living in the world of SEO content creation for 10 years now. I work with a wildly brilliant team composed of web content creation masters, and together we make the internet a better place, one carefully crafted content strategy at a time.
Thank you, Kim. So as you can see, we've all been with Page One Power for about a decade, a little bit more now, and we've had a lot of experience in that time working across many different industries. So today we really want to share a framework of what we do day in and day out for clients and how we actually impact the bottom line. So what we all really want is one thing and one thing only. We want more revenue from search. We want to prove that search is a channel that can drive revenue directly. How do we do that? We do that with product keywords and qualified traffic. We're looking not just to drive traffic or general rankings. We're looking to make sure that every piece of work we do drives business impact, more revenue from search. That means being hyper-focused on those important product keywords, which are and tend to be the hardest ones to move. So with that in mind, that's why we want to share this framework with you today. As Heather said, this is going to be downloadable later. So there's a lot to cover here. I'm going to go through this bit fairly quickly, but that we'll be hitting each piece of this along the way. This is just to give an overview of the presentation. So really our process to build a funnel of content and links in order to impact product level keywords. And when I say product level keywords, I also can mean service or solution, any sort of business impact keyword. What we do is we first find existing link opportunities, we review content, then we create mid-funnel content, top funnel content, then we build links, and finally we measure impact and KPIs. So let's dig into that and what that means specifically. First of all, we didn't want to just talk broad terms here today. We want to use a very real example. You can see that the example we've pulled out is JBL, which is a headphone creator, a brand. They do a lot of different products. Obviously, they're not a client for us. This research was all done for this presentation specifically so that we could talk through a real example. You can see here that we have their wireless headphones category page pulled up. We think that this is a pretty good example, so we're going to talk through it a little bit and why it is a good example. First of all, just looking at this at face value, do they really need SEO work, right? They have basically 2 million monthly organic traffic according to SEMrush. They get that from about 70,000 keywords. That same traffic would cost about $900,000 month over month if you were to spend that on PPC, again, according to SEMrush. But once I apply, you can see I have an advanced filter here. You can't actually see what that advanced filter is, but it's just a branded filter saying don't include branded keywords. You can see that that traffic graph has drastically changed. To compare the two side by side, this is what it looks like. So very different traffic graphs, different amounts of traffic. First of all, they had 70,000 keywords before, now they're down to 60. So they didn't actually lose the majority of their keywords. They only lost about 11,000. But that impacted traffic at a significant level. They went from 2 million monthly organic traffic, give or take, to about 80,000. You can also see that the traffic cost, the actual revenue that they're pulling from search as a channel, went way, way, way down. You can also see just from looking at the graph on the bottom that traffic is trending down over time. So they're actually losing out, not winning. So that's why this is a really good example, because we obviously have a big brand that isn't investing in search as a channel. Looking at specifically that wireless wireless headphones page, you can see wireless headphones is ranking at number 5, but again, that traffic is trending down over time, but this is genuinely a page that's performing relatively well, or has been in the past, but is slowly losing ground. So we never just look in SEMrush, we always take it to Excel. This is just to very quickly show you what it looks like as we look at it in Excel. This is a pivot table. For those of you familiar, what I've done here is used a subfolder system to say, give me the highest organic traffic subfolders by order of amount of traffic. You can see that wireless headphones, again, is a very good example of a product page that we might try to influence, in this case, a category page, because it is the number 2 subfolder on their site driving organic traffic. And here, if we pull that subfolder open, what you'll see is that it's that category page driving all of that monthly traffic. And underneath that is a series of product pages. So really, if we want to influence and show the value of search as a channel for JBL, what we would do is we need to influence that category page. So in this example today, we'll be looking at that category page. While we're here, we're going to also pull out and look at what content is performing under their blog, because it's available. And what you can see is that it's driving about 1,800 monthly traffic according to SEMrush. But what you'll also see is that's all on different TLD subdomains, so UK, France, Germany. We don't see any US in there. So not a lot of content. The content's not driving much traffic. And what traffic is being driven is from other countries. So let's get into the process of actually doing the work that we set out to do, which is build a funnel of content and links to impact that product page. As I said earlier, step 1, we're going to look for existing link opportunity. every client ever comes to us and says, we want to rank our product page better so that we can get more revenue, more traffic. And they say, can you build links directly to the product page? So we're going to be looking at that a little bit here with that example, JBL. So first of all, what we would look at is, can we build links directly to that wireless category page? The answer is probably no. As much as we would like to, as much as we would prefer to, there's not a lot of existing organic opportunities to build links. But one opportunity that does exist is brand mentions. So what we've done is we've gone through, and again, this is an example that you can look at, and when you download the deck later, there's a link. That is actually a link, and you can look at the real page. So here there's a news mention of JBL Audio teaming up with athletes to donate headphones. There's a realistic chance that we could reach out to a publication like this. Now, this one's a little bit dated. You can see the date there is from 2020. But there's a real chance that we could reach out and get a link back to that wireless headphones page, especially if they're making that brand mention directly in association with JBL. So that's one opportunity that we would look at. I will say too, I'm going to be going through this, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I do have one eye on chat, so don't feel like you have to save everything for Q&A at the end. Another example of where we would look for existing link opportunity, same idea as a brand mention. Here you can see that it's a university received a prestigious grant for esports. Again, this article specifically mentions JBL and wireless headphones. When I mean reach out, I just mean send an email to whoever published that page, the author, or maybe the site editor, the editor of the publication, to see if they'd be willing to include a link. So I said that that's an opportunity. Here are a bunch that we found that at face value might look like opportunities to find brand mentions and build links directly back to that category page. But what you'll find is that there's just a slew of affiliate stuff happening in this space, which we will need to be very careful about. Probably we won't be able to get any links on these types of pages, which you can see are reviews of JBL's products, because any links that do exist will be affiliate links. So they won't be willing to just give a true unaffiliate link. In addition, there's a real chance that JBL might have existing relationships with these publications. We don't want to step on their toes as the SEO team. Another existing link opportunity that we found that as we were poking through, is recycling and sustainability. We'll be talking about link building further into the presentation, but in this instance, we felt that there is an opportunity potentially to get some links back to a page like this. Probably not as the page exists now. You can see that it's pretty thin, but this is the type of existing link opportunity that we're looking for when we're working with a new client looking to build a funnel of content and links. And then finally, we found a sustainability report, same idea, that has inherent linkability. This is actually published on Harman, who is the parent company of JBL, which apparently is also apparently owned by Samsung. So pretty interesting there. And this is an opportunity to get a link from an associated website back to JBL potentially. So this is the kind of thing we're looking for. You really just want to scour the website and say, how could I potentially get a link back to the page that I most want to influence? So after that, we move into step 2. We're going to review the existing content. And what that means is looking for, like we did earlier, existing link opportunity, but as much more or more so looking for what kind of keywords are they ranking for? Do they have content that is relevant to wireless headphones? Have they already built out the part of the funnel that we're looking to build, which is bottom funnel, which is that category page, mid funnel, which we'll be talking about here shortly, and then top funnel, which is linkable content. So we're reviewing existing content to see what parts of the funnel do they have. Unfortunately for JBL, they have 6 published blog posts on their blog. Looking at SEMrush the way we did before, there really wasn't any traffic happening that we could see, no real rankings. And the 6 that I do see published on the blog that are on the US version of the blog, they are not related to wireless headphones at all. So no funnel built whatsoever, which makes our job a little bit harder and a little bit easier because we don't have to dance around the content they already have, but it also means that we have to build the entire funnel ourselves. And again, this is just a reference back to that spreadsheet. There's really nothing here that we can work with, no part of the funnel that they've already built. So moving into execution phase, we're into step 3. We're looking to build mid-funnel content for high intent keywords. These keywords that we're going to target are going to be directly relevant to wireless headphones. That's what we're looking for. And really what we're looking for are these common categories. So a lot of times the funnel that we build around the bottom, which is wireless headphones and all those product pages where someone's going to make a purchase decision, is help them guide them through that path of purchase decision. So common categories that we often find, and this will be backed by keyword research that we do, is use cases, customer questions, feature understanding, and then a lot of jargon terms, beginner information that you should answer and be the authority on to both build up your own authority as a wireless headphone provider, and then also to make sure that you're being that source of information as someone's doing research about your product. A couple categories that you'll really want to avoid that look tempting, especially when you're thinking about revenue from search, is best product reviews, and product comparisons. There's a lot of traffic opportunity that happens at this level, and you do want to eventually go after this, but this is going to be very difficult to win because of bias, right? There's one compelling thing that you want to say, which is your product is the best, better than all the competitors. That makes people and Google skeptical of what you have to say. And it's also something that your affiliates are going to cover a lot, and you're going to be competing with your own affiliate traffic in that space. Kim, anything you want to add to any of those categories? Anything you commonly see on the content side as you build out mid-funnel content for our clients?
Yes, I think that, you know, those definitional terms or those foundational terms, they can be easy to want to overlook in favor of, you know, targeting people that are ready to purchase or ready to convert. But like you mentioned, establishing your authority, not only within this space, it helps you like when you're showing up for consumers, but it also lets Google know that you deserve to rank for the products or for the keywords that you're trying to target. And then also the data that you referenced, it's important to make sure that you have like a metric to hang your hat on. It can be easy to want to come up with a topic that you think people are searching for, but you're only one person. So it's really helpful to look at, you know, information that lets you know what people are actually, you know, searching for to help you better funnel your content.
Thank you, Kim.
Yeah. And I'd like to add to that as well. You know, a lot of the clients that I speak with, and you know, the kind of the first like sales call that we have, and we're doing the whole discovery process where we, you know, as a sales team or production team, I guess, where we have a pretty decent idea on what the bottom funnel, mid funnel, and top funnel content looks like. The mid funnel is kind of the area where we have a lot of clients say, hey, we've got tons of content on the website. Why can't you just link to all this content that we have? And we say, okay, fair enough. We'll take a look at it. And it's good informational mid-funnel content. Is it highly linkable? Sometimes in the right situations. But the point being, I think, is having that arsenal of authority within your site that will drive impact to your bottom line, to the product page rankings. That is good information to have for lots of different people out there that are almost to the decision mode.
Absolutely. I saw just a couple questions. One about affiliate traffic. Affiliate traffic is simply when someone, a lot of times there are these sites that will do a review of, say, your product and then provide a link. That link will have affiliate code in it, so that you know that traffic came from them. It will go to a unique affiliate page on your website. And if a purchase happens, it's your job to give the affiliate a bit of a kickback on that product price, on the total revenue that you achieved from that traffic and conversion. And I also saw that comparisons are very effective and reviews are very effective. And I would echo that wholeheartedly. The reason I'm saying probably best to avoid it to start with is because it's very nuanced and difficult to do well. And there's a lot of better ground to cover. Let's take a look at, again, I know this is a spreadsheet. Not everyone loves spreadsheets the way I probably do, but what this is I've gone out and done some keyword research and pulled keyword rankings from competitors that have informational content related to wireless headphones, compiled it into one sheet, pivoted it out, and then essentially looked at, okay, what are types of content that we might want to create, not just from the concept of what is mid-funnel content, what should we create, and how do we talk about wireless headphones, but we specifically, as Kim said earlier, want to look at what's performing well. So a great example of this is Jabra. Jabra is a direct competitor. They also sell wireless headphones, and you can see there on line 12 that they have a blog post, and it's waterproof or water resistant, what's behind an IP rating. So if we expand that out, what you'll see is here are all of the keywords that is driving that 4,000 monthly organic traffic. Now, just as an aside, that amount of traffic is more than they're currently getting to their category page. So if we can go in and create a post that's similar and gain these types of rankings, well, we've just essentially doubled the client's traffic. Now, this isn't that direct bottom funnel traffic, the most qualified traffic that we want, but it is mid funnel traffic that can aid and drive conversions itself as well. And so with this, you can see the direct keywords that we're targeting here. And basically, this just boils down to, it goes back to those use cases and feature rating that we were talking about before as a good category to drive after with your mid-funnel content when you're creating that funnel. Here, IP rating is just a rating to say how dust-proof and how waterproof are headphones. If you're doing something like purchasing swimming headphones or purchasing headphones for running, you might stumble into the IP rating and then think, whoa, I need to know more, go do some searching. And you know what? I'd much rather you come to my client's website, JBL, versus a competitor's website, Jabra, to find that same information. Not only that, but this also directly influences that bottom funnel page, in this case, our wireless category page, wireless headphone category page, because we're now considered a topical authority on that, and we're getting qualified traffic, which will in tandem push that page that we really want to move. So first off, before we go any further, we have a poll, and this poll is just to help us know how we should continue to speak and present. And that poll is your organization currently engaged in content marketing specifically for SEO? We're going to give you just about 30 seconds to 45 seconds to get that submitted. So please go ahead and submit an answer, and we'll keep on moving.
And that should pop up for everybody, but if it doesn't, you can go to the polls tab and see that under the open. But if we give this like 2 more seconds, oh, there we go. Okay, here we are. So we have about 56% of our folks saying yes, and it really works. We have 30% saying yes, but we're not sure how well it's performing. And then tied for about 12%, we've got no, and then also D, we're not doing any content marketing. It seems to be shaking out between A and B. So we've got some that are doing it, some that are doing it well, and some that just aren't quite sure.
Well, congrats to everyone who's doing it, and it's going really well. We found content marketing to be incredibly effective for SEO, which I think many agencies and many organizations have. But Nick's going to be in the breakout room later, and if you have any questions for him, he's happy to answer questions on that front too. And Kim and I are going to do a Q&A as well. I saw just a couple of people ask questions about that spreadsheet and how I pulled that data. That's just an export from SEMrush that I compiled into an Excel file to look at and use a little bit more intuitively, at least for me. Someone also asked about affiliate links and whether those will have any impact on SEO. The answer is it should not. You're supposed to put basically like a sponsored tag on that affiliate link so that Google knows that there is a paid relationship behind that link. That's not to say that happens every single time, but no, an affiliate link should not have any impact on your SEO performance. I also saw, I think twice now, questions about why we can't build links directly to that category page, and I'm just going to answer that very quickly before moving on. The basic reason is that links are supposed to be an editorial vote online, a symbol of authority and trust. It's just really, really hard to get in another reputable website to link directly to a bottom of the funnel page on your website, a page that basically just offers products, because there's nothing in it for them or their audience in most instances. So there's just very limited opportunity to do so. I'm going to keep moving on here, and please continue to ask questions, and I'll try and hit them all as we go. And again, there will be a Q&A at the end. So next, after we hit the mid-funnel content, we're going to go back to the top funnel, and we're going to look for linkable content that we can create with relevant topics. Now, this again comes back to that question I just answered, which is how do we get people to link to our website, to our content, to things that are relevant to what we want to achieve? And this is that question that I really just tried to hit, which is why would another website, especially an authoritative website, be willing to link to my page? If you can answer that question, you're on your road to building out top of the funnel content. The real reason has to tie back to their audience. There has to be value in it for them. You can't just force them to link, as much as we all would like. So for this instance, for this presentation, we did compile just a very short sort of top of mind examples that we think could work. There would be a lot of research that we would do if JBL was genuinely a client and we were getting into a campaign. But here are some types of resources and some types of pages that we might create for JBL in order to build top of the funnel content that we can promote to get links back to the funnel that will then internally link to that mid funnel content and the bottom funnel content as well. Those 4 topics that we came up with are resources for the hearing impaired, a guide to recycling electronics, which is already something that JBL has on their website. They just haven't really done a full guide. They just had kind of a basic page. Important safety equipment for runners. You can see exactly how that ties directly into wireless headphones because most runners listen to something, music, audiobooks, whatever, as they're running. And then tips to minimize anxiety while traveling for business. So all of these are not dead on the nose for the product or the category page that we're trying to influence, but they have a clear tie-in. There is relevance that we can tie back into that mid-funnel and bottom funnel. Kim, Nick, anything you want to add to those topics? Anything you want to say?
I think I would say that like the importance or like the appeal of top funnel content, or I shouldn't say, I should reemphasize, is that it's accessible by a diverse range of audiences, and that's the key. It's not intended to be advertorial, but more accessible.
It certainly allows you to cast a wider net when you're intentionally building links, good natural links to this type of content. It widens the scope. It doesn't limit you to, sites that will maybe let you squeak a mid-funnel or product page link into a guest post, which if they're not catching that, they're probably not catching a lot of other sites doing that as well. And many sites that we won't speak of during this webinar, but, really, from the, sales perspective, the top funnel content, that's probably the most difficult content to really explain and demonstrate the value of it to decision makers. Because it's not a direct page that is generating traffic to buy wireless headphones. It serves a completely different purpose that is incredibly important for SEO.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why we've come up with this framework of building a funnel, right? Building a funnel of content and links is to help everyone understand why when we build top of the funnel content, things that are very audience-based, educational, informational, how that can still drive an impact to the bottom line. And I saw a question, and we do make sure that when we build these types of pages, they do link directly to our bottom funnel page. So in this instance, every single one of these pages, if we were to create them, would link directly to that wireless headphones page, which will then pass link equity, can help people move through the funnel. And it will also link to all the mid funnel that we create as well. Our goal is to have all of that tied together as much as possible. All right, after we've created our top funnel content, we're left with arguably the most fun part, the building the links, which is both the most fun and the most difficult part of SEO in many instances. It's hard to get another site to be willing to link back to yours. So the simple answer here is that there is no magic in building links. And we're going to talk through and show a couple light examples, but the real secret is just doing the work, being willing to create content that you think has enough inherent value that you feel proud to then go promote that content across the web in order to try and drive links back to that content. So we've already shared the example, but really the thing that you should do is, even before you start to create the content, you need to go do some prospecting and make sure that you can find websites with pages where you think a link makes sense. You need to compile that list. And then once you publish the page, you go and you promote. And then you need to track your emails, your responses, the links you're actually getting. And, just very candidly, we do a lot of link building outreach at Page One Power, and we consider a 5% conversion rate to be pretty good when we're doing just raw content promotion for links. To put that in perspective, that means when we send 100 emails where we think there is a definable, clear reason that a link makes sense, we think it's pretty good if we end up getting 5 links out of 100 emails to different sites. So it's tough business, but someone's got to do it. And this is how you drive that bottom of the funnel rankings, is by getting link equity into your funnel. Kim, Nick, anything you want to add there?
I think you covered it pretty well there. I think the big thing on that is, the work it takes to build links, right? If you're doing an outreach manual process, not a lot of people, like if you're new to SEO or have been in it a long time and have never really engaged in trying to build good natural links to your site, it takes a little time to understand what the true process is, whether you're doing, guest posting or doing more resource type link building. It takes a lot of work, with how many sites that you have to reach out to. Even if you have like brand mentions out there and you're a big brand, like those have a shelf life to some capacity. You can't just rely on those. You have to come up with different strategies. You have to reach different audiences. You have to be creative and really use your mind as the best tool before, you get into the business of cutting corners and building links that aren't going to make an impact. So I think, you nailed it there with the, conversion rate. Hit 100 sites and get for 5 links. It is a lot of work to do, but long term it makes a huge impact.
It absolutely does. I saw a question about how it changes our focus, thinking about top, mid, and bottom of the funnel all at once, and that's a great question, and that's why we picture it and build a narrative around a funnel as we work through this, is because it should all be thematic. It needs to all be tied together. There needs to be relevance throughout the funnel so that when we build it, it's all tied together clearly. So in that instance, we would make sure that we can clearly articulate how the mid funnel ties into the bottom, how the mid funnel ties into the top, how the top ties into the mid and the bottom. So it all needs to be relevant all the way through. So let's look at a couple examples of where we might pitch. In this case, we've decided to go with a guide to recycling electronics, largely because JBL already had a page about that on their website, which to us means that they're very likely to go for that as an informational guide. So what we've done is we've just gone and done some light prospecting. Again, these links exist in the deck itself. So after the webinar, if you want to go actually see the pages, you can see what we're looking at. These are places where we think genuine links make sense. They're not the greatest, most authoritative websites in the world, but these are relevant to dead-on resources for the page that we're creating that will have inherent authority and relevance to what we're creating. So you can see here we've got a ShipShape solution, donating and recycling resources, a decent DA on the site as I recall, and real resources for those looking to donate or recycle things that they have. There's also appliances and other electronics, so a guide here makes perfect sense. After that, we've pulled out a conservation website. This is LEAP, and I didn't capture it in the screenshot here, but underneath this page, there's a bunch of resources. Again, very dead on the money for the type of page we're looking to promote. This is a place where this is the exact type of outreach that we would do, where we'd say a link makes sense. We think that this is going to be helpful to your audience and that they would probably link. And then last but not least, we've got another page. This is from an association out of Canada, and they have green building links. Again, this is a place where we think a guide to recycling electronics makes perfect sense. So we found these pages just by going through the internet and looking for places where people were either linking to or talking about recycling resources, where we think that a link would make sense. We look at a variety of metrics when we're looking through these pages. We look at the domain authority. We look at Majestic's trust flow, citation flow. We look at SEMrush traffic to these websites. So we look to make sure that we also just look through the site generally to make sure that we truly believe that this is a real website with real value with a real audience. So we're looking to build as many links as possible. And these are the types of websites that are our bread and butter, where we look for opportunity where a link makes sense. All right, so next we're into our second and final poll, which is, does your organization actively try to earn links? Again, we're going to wait about 30, 45 seconds and give you a chance to answer that.
And while we wait for those to populate, I don't know if you saw Paul's question, but he asked if you have pitched this to JBL. So Paul, perhaps if they haven't, you can.
No, but if JBL is listening or happens to listen, we would love to have a conversation with you. We think that there's a very real business case to be made here. And I personally do a lot of running, and I did not pull this example out of thin air. I had some running headphones on my desk when I was trying to come up with ideas, and that's who I looked at. And I genuinely think that this is a great opportunity for JBL to prove out that search has revenue value as a channel. It's clearly something they haven't invested in yet, but they have the brand authority, they have the opportunity in front of them, but not every business is invested in SEO.
Yeah. So for our survey results, we've got the leader is 41% saying no, but we want to start. With 30% saying yes, but we're struggling. 21% saying yes, we feel great about our solution, and 10% said we're starting to look.
Congrats again to everyone who feels great about their solution. And yeah, it's link building's tough work. It's one of the toughest parts. It's the least controllable part about SEO, is what we commonly say, because at the end of the day, getting a link back to your website requires convincing someone else who owns a website that it's in their best interest to link to you. And that's just inherently very difficult. All right, I think we're good to move forward. So I've talked about this a few times, but as you're publishing content, as you're building links, you're going to have to measure the impact, the results that you're having, and you need to make sure that you're consistently interlinking this all. What that means is making sure that every opportunity you have to have an internal link from one page to another, you're seizing upon. Part of our strategy is we always highlight how all of this is going to interlink. But what happens is you're publishing these at disparate times, and you need to remember after you publish to go back and update so that this is all internally linked, and that topical authority, the relevance, and the link equity is all flowing through the funnel and having the maximum impact. Nick, Kim, anything you want to add to that?
I think I would say that's sorry, Nick. I think that I would just say that that's something that is like an ongoing part of the process. Like, you'll want to revisit your internal links regularly as your goals change, as your products change, as pages are updated or become outdated. Like, it's an ongoing process that you'll want to just make like a regular part of your maintenance of your content.
You pretty much you hit the point really well there, Kim. Again, going back to my experience with looking at a lot of websites that come in before we start working on them, internal links is one thing that surprisingly a lot of people miss out on. And I think it starts to happen because over time, as you continuously publish new content on your blog or your resource section, whatever it may be, you kind of forget about older pages that might perform well, and you have your mind set on what's new. And so it is, again, SEO is a lot of work, but keeping internal linking primo on your website is very important. And it's when we think about link building and how important links are in Google and SEO, it's not all external links. Internal links matter significantly as well. So one thing to think about, I see a lot of websites come through, not a lot of them have a great internal linking structure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Nick. So once we get all of that done, we have our funnel built, we've got links coming into the funnel, everything's beautifully interlinked. We get to the place where we get to measure impact and report out to the client. So this is really important that the reason we're sharing this funnel concept today is because we found true value in it. It's important to have a narrative arc when you're reporting out. I think a lot of this is missed in SEO because we're so hyper fixated on the technical details of a website, of ranking position, of the optimization elements that are on a page, right? Of the links that we've managed to build, because all of those are very difficult things to achieve. But for JBL, for example, the example that we pulled out was they're already ranking number 5, right? And so if we're able to move that even 2 positions, up to number 3, that could have an actual genuine revenue impact that we can measure for the client. But if we just report back, hey, after all of that work, we've managed to move you 2 positions, is that going to have the impact, right? Is everyone going to understand what that genuinely means? And I think the answer is no, which is why we need to remember how important it is when we're reporting to have a narrative element built in, and that we need more than just a singular KPI or metric that we're measuring against, that we're telling the whole story.
Yeah, so, and I would say that's probably the number one question I get is, how are we going to show our ROI? How are we going to measure it? How are we going to report it? That, like, probably every single person that I talk to, that's the last question I get at the end of our presentations. Really, the best way to answer that question is gaining a really good understanding of how each stage of your content funnel works to ultimately increase your product page rankings. And then from there, demonstrating that progress within each stage by establishing different goals, your leading KPIs and your lagging or like longer term KPIs. So what I mean by that with your leading KPIs, nothing, way out of the ordinary, pretty basic stuff for, the average SEO. But the important piece of this is establishing the expectation with the decision makers of, hey, we're going to engage in this SEO campaign. What are we going to look at from the get-go? What we're going to look at is things like, okay, where are we ranking right now with our primary keywords that we're hoping to influence? How are we going to get there? Okay, so these KPIs need to measure our progress to get to our goal of increasing rankings and revenue. What we report in terms of leading metrics is, okay, are we generating new keywords from creating new content? Are we seeing some organic traffic growth up and to the right? Are we building the links that we said we were going to go build? Are we, creating new content? So those are more of KPIs that show that we are getting towards our goal. The second, lagging KPIs, longer term metrics. This is where you get into the nitty gritty, what we really care about at the end of the day. And if we are seeing these are things like clicks, web form fills, are we getting qualified leads, and is that turning into revenue? That's when, we at the end of the day, we know the strategy is working. This is more like output results type of metrics. And so tying that into, you can do it in a lot of different ways to show how we're tracking all this. We use spreadsheets. You can use different tools to report from, Ahrefs or SEMrush for keyword rankings or what have you. But understanding how, again, maybe we have a lot of good mid-funnel content and bottom funnel content. We're lacking a lot of upper funnel, top funnel content. Tracking like, okay, let's create, X number of articles that speak to the top funnel and build X number of links and report on that. Do we get there? Yes. What kind of impact did that make on our rankings? We went from page 6 to page 5. Great. That might not be driving traffic. Certainly won't be driving traffic at this point, but we are showing progress. So every step of that reporting process is incredibly important to paint the entire picture of what the content marketing funnel is all about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And a lot of this, measuring impact down to the clicks, web forms, qualified leads, and how many conversions and what that means from revenue, that's something you'll have to build out as you build your partnership, or if you're doing this internally, working with your analytics team or your marketing officers. This is not something that every SEO has access to. And so this is something you'll have to work to establish, but it works far greater than just reporting on typical SEO metrics. So I think that pretty well covers it. I think we hit all of the pieces we wanted to cover today. Everyone, thank you so much for joining and listening in. It was a pleasure to present to all of you. And we have about 15 minutes left for Q&A.
Awesome. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to open the breakout room, and that should open as a pop-up for you all. And you just click that breakout room 1 and join at the bottom. And you can join. Nick and Shannon will be over there. And so, yeah, Kimberly, Corey, Q&A is all yours. If you need anything, I'm back here.
I think I did a pretty good job hitting questions as we went, but any that I missed, any that you want me to dig into or Kim to answer, we're very happy to be here and speak to anything.
I do think you did a good job of hitting on all them. Lee actually just put one in the chat that says, for smaller businesses, is there a strategy wherein your team or you can team up with local businesses for linking?
I'm going to try very hard not to use the word "it depends," because I think that's an answer that we all hear all the time. So I will say instead, yes, very likely there is, but it's going to vary from business to business and what relationships you have. I will say that links are meant to be a symbol of trust and authority. And if you have that relationship pre-existing in the physical world, there's probably a good reason for it to exist in the digital world as well. Now, if it's a paid relationship, you have to be thoughtful about that. You might need to use something like a nofollow or a rel equals sponsored so that Google knows that's a paid link. But if it's just a true business relationship, then yes, going out and trying to make sure that they're linking back to your website in some way is very relevant, and there's a definite opportunity there. Looks like more coming in from the chat. That's a great question about primary keyword modifiers when you look for bottom of the funnel content and middle of the funnel content. I've tried this and I've seen other SEOs do it, and I mean, I have to just be perfectly candid that I think that can be done to an extent, but I try not to filter out anything in the competitive keyword research cycle because I'm always afraid that I might miss something. And so we always re-attack keyword research for any new client as if we're starting fresh. We know all of the tips and strategies that work, and we have processes that streamline the whole keyword research cycle. But at the end of the day, we don't go in with pre-built expectations. We want to make sure that we're finding all of the opportunities that genuinely exist. And so like very easy to think, oh, well, informational, I should use how, what, who, when, where, why, how, and all of those typical phrases. But it's always surprising to me how people can search for information on the internet. And I try not to build out any sort of pre-existing expectation before I dig into the keyword research. Kim, anything you want to add to that?
I was going to throw an amen out there to yes, that's why it's important to it's really easy to want to inherently assume or, have faith in a particular modifier or anything like that. But you have to base it off of what the data is actually showing you, what the information is saying people are actually searching for, because everybody searches so differently.
Yeah, and honestly, truly every industry is a little bit different. And usually we're not too surprised, but sometimes we are very surprised. And you never want to go into any situation putting blinders on, because the surprise then you won't be prepared for. Let's see. Next question is optimal word count for product pages. What about on-page keyword density? That's a great question. Again, I said I won't use the word "it depends," which I'm now repeating, so I kind of am cheating. But I would look at the SERP. So you know when you create a product page, what your primary product keyword that you want to rank for is. So for JBL, the example that we use, their primary keyword that they want to rank for is wireless headphones, right? There's going to be a million variations that you can find by looking at SEMrush, by looking at competitors, by even looking in your own search console to see what other keywords are driving clicks to that page. But that's the head term. I would encourage you to go look at the search engine results page, often called the SERP, for that primary keyword and see what competitive, like who's ranking at the top, and find the most direct competitor that you can and see how, like, do they have information on their product page, or is it just a very streamlined product page? There are instances where it makes sense to put a lot of information on a product page or on a service page or on a solutions page. And there are instances where you absolutely shouldn't do that. So you have to look at the primary keyword and draw conclusions from there. But you do want to be very thoughtful about making sure that you're answering the kinds of questions you should on your product page, even if you also have a much more in-depth informational page about that same question. Anything you can do to pull in traffic to your product page, you should be doing. Do you recommend a minimum number of backlinks linking to a blog post? There is no magical number. The more you can get, the better, obviously. But I would say when you're building a funnel, you want to make sure that you're varying your efforts and that not all of your links point to one singular blog post that you've built. You want that link equity and those links to be flowing throughout the entire mess of content that you've created as much as possible. You want to share the love. Having said that, there's a very real thing in content marketing, especially content marketing for SEO, which is called the Pareto principle. Basically just means that usually something like 90% of your success comes from 10% of your efforts. When you're creating mid-funnel content, even though all of it is created incredibly strategically, what you'll find is some just really stick and drive a lot of traffic. So you'll want to be thoughtful about all of that. The same is true when you're building top funnel content. You'll think all of it is inherently just as linkable as one piece to the next. But when you get to the promotion stage, you'll find some of it just works better. I would encourage you to lean into that. There is no fixed number. The more, the better is pretty much usually the case. I'm going to keep going here, but Kim, please feel free to interrupt me as well. So besides the keyword gap analysis, are you getting content ideas from the client's customer support team or breaking out features of the product and writing about that? That's a great question, Matt. We always ask the client, what do you want to see us cover? Do you have any internal research? Is there anything you can share with us that's going to help us define direction? And we always work to be as strategic as possible to that primary goal, which is driving, again, JBL, the example, driving rankings for wireless headphones, right? And making sure that we're actually affecting that business case at the bottom of the funnel page. A lot of it is competitive analysis and looking at not just direct competitors, but what type of content exists out there, what's driving traffic in the space, because that's what we need to do fundamentally. But we will do various things with the clients, and clients often inform direction in terms of how that funnel actually shapes out. Kim, you have a ton of experience with this. Is there anything I glossed over there?
I don't think so. I think you covered it pretty well. I would say like maybe one other angle that we take when we're exploring that would be like potential pain points that the clients, either product pages or solutions or similar may influence. So that could be a direction that we kind of go.
Oh, a great caveat to add to all of that too is that oftentimes when working with clients, what we'll find is that there is traffic opportunity that doesn't tie to the actual business case of the product, service, feature that our client is selling. And so you need to be thoughtful about that as well. So we want to make sure that any mid-funnel content we are creating does actually tie back to what the client is actually selling or the service they're providing. A lot of times just looking at keyword research, you can get lost and forget that there's an actual sales mechanism. And sometimes what they're selling doesn't apply to everyone equally. And so you want to be thoughtful about the keywords that you're targeting, the content that you're creating, the audiences you're addressing with that in mind. So Vikram's asking about paid opportunities to build links. I mean, I don't want to be too resolute on this, but you really shouldn't go and pay for any backlinks directly from the website. That's a short-term solution to a long-term problem, and you're going against Google's guidelines. You can get hit with a manual penalty or an algorithmic penalty from Google by engaging in paying directly for links from websites. So you need to be very careful about doing that. And that's what makes link building so hard, is because you can find, I think all of us have seen a million opportunities if we're engaged in link building to just pay directly for the link and get that link live. We don't condone that. We don't do that. It's a short term, it's a shortcut, and it puts a lot of long-term risk. Danielle, apologies. How do you choose the best categories or pages to direct your funnel to? That's why I showed some of that research at the beginning. Basically, we talk to the client and we let the client dictate to a certain extent what pages they're looking us to drive revenue for, where they see revenue opportunity. We'll also go do research as well and make sure that we genuinely believe we can have an impact on that page. Typically what we look for when we do that is, does that page deserve to rank? Is it currently ranking? Will a funnel of content and links actually drive the ranking? So in this instance, looking at JBL, what I did was I looked for existing link opportunities. I also looked at the page itself and said, okay, is it driving and is it currently ranking for meaningful product terms? The answer was yes. Is it a meaningful page on their website? Is it a meaningful category? The answer was yes. That's why we ended up pulling that out. And so a lot of times that's just partnering with your client or with your internal team to see where revenue opportunities actually exist. Does writing blog posts with similar or repeated keywords risk keyword cannibalization, or does it reinforce the brand as an authority on the topic? That is the $1 million question. I think the answer is you can certainly fall accidentally into the cannibalization camp, and you need to be very careful and thoughtful not to do that. But what we are looking to do is build up a funnel of related topics and reinforce the authority and relevance. And so there's a certain amount of strategic thought that needs to go into that, and you need to be very careful about what keywords you're targeting with what page. And I mean, just from my own perspective, it's incredible how much diversity there is in slight keyword variation. You can create two pages that seem almost identical, but just by saying instead like top 5 tips versus best practices, you might end up with two very different pages that target two very different keywords, even if the core keyword ends up being the same. Kim, do you want to add any more to that?
I think you covered it really well. And I would just say that there will almost always be some overlap, and like overlap is okay. But like you mentioned, you just want to make sure that like the focus between the pieces is distinct, like the intention of it is distinct for each piece. You may find that you end up internally linking from one piece to the other to provide more information or more context on the overlap that occurs, but then you're able to differentiate the other pieces subsequently by focusing on a different variant or a different, subset of terms or something like that.
Perfect. Next question is, how much of the visitor persona do you take into consideration when creating content? And that's a great question. I'm just going to answer very short and then kick it over to Kim, because Kim has much more experience with this. But the answer is we do partner with our clients, and we always ask these types of questions so that when we create content, we're sure that it aligns with who our client can sell to, and that's clearly tied in.
Yes, absolutely. We want to make sure that we create content that feels at home on the client site. And then we also want to consider the audiences that may discover these pieces that might be relevant or run alongside the persona that the client has asked us to focus on. So we work really hard to keep that in mind at the topic ideation phase, but then also as we construct the content to make sure that we're speaking directly to them appropriately.
Well, I'm just going to jump right on in here because we're at the top of the hour, and I don't think it felt like it. So I hope it felt like a great time to you all. And so on the other side, if you joined the breakout with Nick, we're going to be closing that out too. But Corey, Kimberly, thank you both for joining us. And I do have one question. Tell the people where to find you.
Just go to pageonepower.com, and we have a variety of resources and pages. And if you have any questions, we do have a contact form there. We're happy to get on the phone and discuss anything. So thank you all genuinely from the bottom of our hearts. It was a genuine pleasure. And I mean, it definitely did not feel like an hour on our end.
Thank you.
No, thank you all. Before you leave, make sure you grab those handouts in the handout tab, but we'll make sure that they're in your email that you get after this with the slides and the recording. So with that, we are going to close it out. Make sure you go to searchenginejournal.com/subscribe so that you know all of the great webinars and events that we have coming up. Hope everybody has a great day, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Hi, Nick. Bye, Nick.